Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, so I'm here today with a quick look at Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. This is not going to be a review or anything, it's just kind of a preliminary look at maybe some preliminary thoughts that I've had over the couple times that I've played this. So a couple friends of mine and we played 2 or 3 scenarios way back when the game was first released, and the time limit that was imposed on the scenarios kind of irked us. And then, of course, I had heard that the adventure mode was coming, the mode that eliminated the time crunch completely. And so I wanted to wait to get back to the game until that mode was implemented, which it is now. Additionally, I wanted to wait again until the first expansion came out, and that did come out pretty recently, and that is Shadowed Paths, because I think the first expansion adds just enough enemy variety to satisfy my my need for more variety in the enemies. So I have not played a full campaign. I am playing right now. I just started a new campaign, playing through the Shadowed Paths campaign, and I am playing with 2 characters. I am playing with Eleanor, and I am using her suggested start role as a traveler, and then I am also playing as Gandalf, and I am using his suggested role as a meddler. And I'm having quite a bit of fun. I really like this game for the most part. I do wish, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about, I am running the app here on an old iPad 3, and it seems to be running just fine. No issues whatsoever. In general, I really like apps in games, and I wish that more dungeon crawls and more adventure games utilized apps in the way that this game does, and in the way that Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition does. I like that the apps handle a lot of the behind the scenes crunch. They handle the enemy AI. They handle some dice rolling and some numbers, and just they allow me to focus on the things that I really enjoy about these kinds of games, and that is the actual adventure, the quest, the narrative, the little encounters, and the characters. And whether it is creating a character or developing a character, managing a character's stats and his or her equipment and special abilities. When an app is handling a lot of the things in the background, that just frees up more of my mind to focus on the things that I like. And one complaint I hear from board gamers a lot when it comes to not liking apps is this fear of the app or the game, this fear of the game being unplayable in X amount of time. Usually somebody says 10 or 15 years I won't be able to play the game because the app won't be available. And I have a really, really hard time with that complaint. To me, that's like saying I don't want to enjoy this really good bottle of scotch now because someday it will be gone. I am far more concerned about the time I have right now, and that is really the only time we are guaranteed in life. So I would rather play a game that I am enjoying, that I am loving right now with an app, than pass over that game because maybe I won't be able to play it in 10 years, but I can play it and love it now. And so I have no problem with that. But then again, you know, games from when I was a kid, games from the 1970s, video games, you can still play them today, no problem whatsoever. Actually, they're probably easier to play today because of all the emulators. So I have no fear of this app not being available in 10 years. It will be on something. Somebody will make it on something. It will be playable. And you know what? If it's not, that's fine, because in 10 years from now, there's going to be probably 200 more games released that I'm going to want to play. And this game is probably not even going to be on my radar in 10 or 15 years. So, you know, there are so many things that are pointing to, hey, play this game now and enjoy it, that I don't fear about the future of the game. One other aspect that I do find that comes up a lot with Lord of the Rings, and it is more of an issue for me, is the IP. Is it being based on Lord of the Rings? And this game is in a weird camp. It's like straddling two different camps. So for me, I am not a huge Tolkien fan. I think The Hobbit is a great book. I love The Hobbit. I do not like The Lord of the Rings at all. I love the movies. I think the movies are great, but I'm not a fan of the books. It's the exact opposite with The Hobbit. I love The Hobbit book, and I think the movies are terrible. I like the Lord of the Rings movies. I really don't like the books. I have a great admiration for Tolkien. I have a great admiration for the Lord of the Rings and what it did for epic fantasy. But I have a lot of issues with the books, and they don't entertain me. And so for me, the fact that this is based off of an IP that I'm not super into, it doesn't do a lot for me. And so it's hard for me to get excited about the characters. You know, if this was like Runebound 4th edition, I would be way more into it. And fingers crossed, come on, like FFG, make a new Runebound with an app like this. That would be so awesome. I'm really hoping that the new Descent is going to have an app and be designed ground up for an app play. In the other camp are people like, I have a good friend on Facebook, and he is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And he has troubles with this game because of the way that they have, you know, combined characters that shouldn't be together, the way they've taken liberties with some of the lore and the structure of the world and all of that. So he doesn't like the game because it's not Lord of the Rings enough. And I've heard that complaint quite a bit. And like, the game doesn't really feel like a Lord of the Rings game. It feels more like just a generic fantasy game. So if it was a generic fantasy game, it would make me happier, or people like me. If it was more of a Lord of the Rings game, it might make a different group of people happier, but it might alienate people like me. And so the game's in this weird kind of nebulous zone where it doesn't seem to be really reaching out to anybody. It's kind of trying to play this nice, wide, safe area in the middle. So in that way, you know, it is hard for me to get super excited about the game because I just don't really care. You know, I don't have a lot of personal stake in Gandalf or Eleanor. I don't even think I know who Eleanor is. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody out there, but when I'm playing the game, that kind of stuff I can easily forget about, and I enjoy the game, and a lot of that does have to do with the app. I have started the first adventure in I think both main campaigns a couple times each, and there have been noticeable, subtle but noticeable differences in some of the random encounters. So the app keeps track of, you know, I think, like, I don't know if they say 100 or hundreds, many dozens of random things that can happen. And so instead of huge decks of cards, you have for these like encounters, the app will generate things for you. I like that a lot. You know, they could just keep adding more of those in as time goes on. Things can get changed. Some people have complained about a couple bugs. I haven't yet run into any bugs, but what I do like about app-based games, if there is a bug, they are usually pretty quick to fix it, and they can fix it, and it's not on us to then have to go and print a new rulebook or print new cards or make our own, you know, proxies for the updated materials. They can just update it on the back end and, you know, push it out to us. We can download the new version and things can move on from there. One other complaint I have, and that goes along with Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. I have the same exact complaint, and that is the amount of tiles. So this is just the base game and the one expansion. And I know I'm not alone, but I know I'm in the minority, but I don't care. I think this is a huge problem. We do not need this many tiles for this kind of game, okay? All it does, in my opinion, is completely stop the game every time you have to set something up on the board. And the fact that there are all these weird shapes, you know, the tiles, they don't really add anything. We only needed a handful, and the app controls all of the detail, all of the minutia, all of the scenery. You know, we can read about what's going on. We don't necessarily have to see every little thing. And a lot of times you're searching through a tile and you put it down and it's just more art. It doesn't really add anything to the experience except for it taking time to find the tile. This isn't quite as bad yet as Mansions of Madness, which absolutely takes forever. And I love 2nd Edition Mansions of Madness a lot. But the number of tiles is the number one thing that keeps me from playing the game, because every time we play it, when it's time to set up a new map tile, the game stops, the immersion is broken. You know, people get up, they go get water, or it's you know, it's never fun. That part of the night is never fun. And people say, well, you need to find better storage solutions, or pass out a group of tiles to each player and let them look. Okay, well, I don't think a game should, one, require better storage solution to make the game better, and two, as a game host, I don't want to give my players jobs. That's you know, that's not fun. And when I'm playing solo and having to do it, you know, these are now in like number order, but it still stops the game. So I really hope they don't go down that same road where every time they release an expansion, they release a whole bunch of tiles and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. You know, with app-based games, I would prefer it if they would keep most of the expansion stuff in the app and come up with creative ways to use the materials that we already have. You know, I don't mind paying for new adventures, new scenarios, new random encounters in the app, in the digital realm. And, you know, let me keep my physical components that I have out. Just let this be enough, and I would be very happy with that. But again, I know I am super in the minority on that, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about that in the comments. But overall, I have a great time playing this game. When I am down in the map, exploring the land, finding out more about these search tokens, finding out more about the things that are inhabiting the tiles, and what kind of adventures my heroes are going to be on. When I am thinking about the skills that I'm going to ready, and how I'm going to prepare for my turn, how I'm going to utilize all of my different gear and powers. You know, in between missions, there's a little bit of deck building, and I get to think about how I'm going to approach the next scenario with newfound powers or things like that. I have a lot of fun, and the app handles a lot of the crunch in the background, so I don't have to think about that. I can just occupy my mind with the things that I think are the most fun with adventure games. So yeah, I'm having a good time with Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. Even though I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, for me it just scratches that good app-based adventure game itch. So, all right, guys. Well, let me know what you think of this game. I know this is kind of a polarizing game. I've talked to quite a few people who really like it, and I've talked to quite a few people who don't like it at all. And I know some of those people will comment, and hopefully we will have some good discussions about Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. So, all right, guys. Well, take it easy, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.